We'll start creating trimming textures. For this wood trimming texture, let's look at the concept art. Let's analyze the concept art. Let's determine which areas require trimming textures. Actually, if we're doing this properly, we can use trimming textures for things like these pillars. Like this pillar, this beam, and this narrower piece, this wood strip, and this plank. And here, but we can use a single plank for this. For this area, we can use a continuous trimming plank. This plank and this wood trimming could be separate. Whether to separate them depends on the quantity. So, we might need to plan this ahead of time. It might consist of 2 trimming textures. To illustrate, let's say this is one texture, then here. This vertical wood plank. It probably takes up about half the space. We'll allocate the rest above. The other texture. Yes, roughly. The other trimming is similar to what we discussed, based on different plank widths. Then, there are the cross-sections. Different cross-sections. 2 textures should suffice. Removed redundant. Let's start with the first one. Parts like these, or other parts, can go on the second texture. If we made it all one texture, space might be tight. Removed redundant. It's tight because there are some wider pieces here. Like this column. They're wide and take up a lot of space. So, it's better to separate them. Okay, let's make the trimming texture. Let's get a rough measurement. The widest one is this. Then there are these round ones, some are round, some are square. If it's like in God of War, carving is best. But we mostly use SD, it can achieve this effect. It's just not as customizable as carving. For a unique look, carving is better. But with such long wood, a trim sheet is needed. Even with carving, a trim sheet is necessary. Otherwise, the precision isn't enough, the wood is too long. Okay, let's roughly calculate its width. Let's use a shape. Then we'll control its width. Okay, using offset. Let's leave this here for now. This is our pillar. It's about this much. For a round pillar like this, you need an unwrapped texture. A wider one makes a good round pillar. This circle, we can plan this texture like a wood plank texture. For now, let's skip planning. The circles, let's make them squares. Let's plan A. Wider one. Make this wider. For example, this wide. Let me see. This width is almost perfect. Now, let's copy it. Move it up slightly and scale it. Use the transform tool. That's good enough, but leave some space here, don't let them touch. Okay, this width. Let's look at the corresponding ones. There are wider and narrower pillars, so this one is suitable for the narrower ones. Okay, copy another one. Alright, let's shrink it. Let me see. Anything else we need? Like this wood plank, right? This type of plank. This plank can also be used. We need to plan the width, if it's this wooden board. Then this color is lighter than the others. And the width. Slightly wider than the others. About this wide. Okay, a bit wider is fine too. Okay, they can be a bit closer together. Because we'll need to add a bevel later. With the bevel, this gap will be sufficient, it won't feel too close. We'll add a bevel here, at this position. The 45-degree angle is created by this bevel. The bevel defaults to 45 degrees. As discussed in the previous lesson on regions, this area needs a bevel for the edge. Like this edge. It makes the transition smoother. Okay, let's look at this. Now, let's continue. Copy this. Good. Make this a little narrower. These long strips can go here. Try to align them neatly. No need for so much space at the bottom. Move it closer. Okay. Continue. Keep arranging it. We still have this width available. This picture might make it clearer. There's a structure here. Like a golden stripe. That structure. We'll also adjust this structure. We'll plan a spot for it later. Structure okay. This width is about right. Duplicate it. This needs to be narrower. Different widths are needed for proportional scaling. Otherwise, the widths are different. So its scaling is. The detail of its texture is different. Then let's make a very thin one. Then make a thinner one. This thin one can be used for these finer structures. That's enough. This many will do. Then we'll adjust the width. So for this width, let's have a look. See which one works best. It should be a bit wider. Let's copy this one. Put it here. Place this. Okay, that's enough. Let's add the cross-section here. Add some cross-sections. Okay, if we chamfer it, it looks like this. Let's control the chamfer width. Or we can chamfer it separately. It has some small ones like this. Shouldn't the chamfer be smaller? We can chamfer it separately. We'll separate the chamfer in a bit. And then the upper cross-section. Let's add another one. Let go. Just don't get too close. Leave some space. This is okay. Okay, and this corresponds to this large cross-section. Okay, let's continue copying this. We'll do this here. Maximize it. We don't need this here. Copy it to this overall area. This way, we'll create the cross-section separately. A separate group. Offset it here. Let go of this one. Make sure you remove the tiling. Remove the tiling from this one too. Okay, so this one is smaller. A small difference is acceptable. For precision, measure the widths. A slight difference is fine. Make a rectangle up here.